It's 2025 and you're excited for the new year, but are you ready for your language aspirations to last an entire year? At the beginning of 2017, I did what everybody else does. That is, write a goal that said, by the end of this year, I will be fluent in Greek. Did that work? Absolutely not. And yet, I speak fluent Greek now. So, what has worked over the last 7 years for me? Let's break it down. 1. Create a 12-week plan, and not a 12-month plan. Last year, I started learning Turkish. And if I had said, I will be fluent in 1 year as my goal, I would be in a state of severe depression right now. Over the last 12 months, I've had work pile up, health issues flare up, travel plans, language learning burnout, and to top it all off, unexpected plumbing problems like you would never believe, and much, much more. You see, it's really hard to predict how your entire year will go, because life tends to throw a few twists and turns along the way. That is why it's a mistake to try and plan for the entire year. In fact, I dare say years are for losers and quarters are for winners. So be a winner like Yannick Sinner, shout out to my fellow Italiano, and design your goals around 12 weeks, not 12 months. The beauty of the system is that it forces you to focus on a shorter time frame, which means you work with urgency and flexibility. A year can seem so distant that most people will simply say, it's okay, I got time, whenever they haven't accomplished their daily task. With a quarterly goal, the pressure to perform is higher, so you procrastinate less because time is of the essence, as they say. Whether it's improving your speaking skills or understanding a podcast without subtitles, set a specific, measurable goal for each 12-week period, which means you'll have 4 separate goals throughout the year. Or maybe they'll be the same goal with a slight adjustment. It just depends on you. If you achieve your goal for the quarter, you can make a new one for the following quarter. If not, you can adjust it and try again in Q2. For example, my goal for Turkish was to learn for at least an hour a day, but for Q2, when things got quite hectic for me, that had to be scaled back to 30 minutes. And that, my friends, is just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. 2. Create process goals. Roma non è stata costruita in un giorno, ma i mattoni venivano posati ogni ora. In language learning, people tend to obsess over outcomes. I want to be fluent, or I need to pass an exam, which is what I did with Greek in 2018, remember? Yet, by September of that year, I had completely stopped learning Greek, and when I looked back at my year in December, I knew something had to change. The guilt of not learning Greek had only snowballed, and I was nowhere near being fluent. If you focus too much on the end goal, you'll lose sight of the daily actions that lead to success. That is why process goals are so powerful. What are process goals, you might ask? Well, ask yourself this very simple question. Given my goal, what is the one habit that will allow me to reach that goal? For example, if your goal for Q1 is to improve your listening comprehension, then your process goal is simply the following. I will commit to listening to a podcast in my target language every day for 15 minutes. That is way more specific and a lot more likely to improve your comprehension than just saying, me like language, me listen lots, me get good, me understand everything. As far as speaking goes, instead of aiming to speak fluently, commit to speaking to yourself every day for 5 minutes and to your tutor twice a week. Over time, you will achieve your dream goal without fussing over whether or not you've become fluent on a daily basis. The process keeps you engaged, helps you build momentum, and ensures consistency, which in the end is what drives results. 3. Develop a weekly plan. You know what happens when I have a dedicated time each week to meet with my tutor? And when I block out a specific time in the morning to study? I end up learning my language consistently. However, if I leave it up in the air, then the language gods get mighty upset with me because I tend to become rather forgetful. In fact, if I'm not planning ahead, I'll end up feeling worse than Tom Jane during the end of The Mist. Your weekly plan is like a roadmap for your 12-week cycle. Each Sunday, sit down and map out when you'll study, what you will study, and for how long, and put it on your calendar. If you're learning, say, French, plan specific times for speaking practice, listening, and vocabulary review. For example, I will be reading and listening to one podcast a day every day at 7 a.m. I will also speak with my tutor every Thursday at 5 p.m. Without a weekly plan, it's easy to get distracted and lose track of your own progress. Trust me, even for a polyglot like me, if it's not in the calendar, it ain't gonna happen. 4. Focus on execution. Planning is only half of the battle because the actual execution of a plan is where the magic happens. It's one thing to say you will learn Portuguese every single day, but it's another thing to actually do it. This may seem obvious, but focus on taking action consistently, even if you're just meeting the absolute bare minimum. One helpful trick is to make starting your daily session as easy as possible. I had 2 simple tricks to make it happen. First, I changed the habit of sitting and learning to another habit. After brushing my teeth in the morning, I would sit down and learn. Get your chain game going, because you will need to chain the action of learning to another well-established habit of yours. And second, to make it even easier, I already had my beloved Asmil waiting for me on my desk. So in my mind, starting to learn Serbian would work this way. Brush my teeth. Oh, it's time to learn Serbian. Go to my room, pick up the book, put my headset on, and boom, you're right into it. Remember, action leads to motivation and not the other way around. 5, create accountability. I've gotten to the point where learning is in my blood. It's what makes me feel alive every day that I'm still on this earth. However, not everybody is the same, and for some of you, it's not easy to pick up a foreign language and struggle for so many minutes. Therefore, one of the best ways to stay on track is through accountability. Whether it's finding an accountability buddy, joining an online community, or even making a public commitment on social media, accountability keeps you motivated. Personally, I like to journal my daily progress or use something called Don't Break the Chain calendar. It's a simple calendar that you can download, print, and attach it to your fridge. Every time you complete a day of study, put an X on the calendar. That X will give you the highest of highs, and when you see a blank day in your calendar, it will give you the lowest of lows. The beauty of it? It's as simple as it gets. But not to worry, because you'll want to get back in action as soon as possible to experience those highs again. If you're a streak freak, then this approach will work wonders for you. 6, measure your progress. In the 12-week year, success is measured by progress metrics and not just final results. But how do you measure pronunciation or fluency? Unless you're taking a test, it's hard to quantify your level. So track the only thing that you can easily measure: your time exposed to the language. That means you track how consistent you were with your study sessions, not just how much you learned. That is your measure. Think of it like this: how much time are you spending with your target language? How many speaking lessons did you have during the week? How many podcasts and videos did you go through? That is what matters. It's these daily actions that add up to huge progress over 12 weeks. 7, celebrate small wins. When I was visiting Belgrade, I remember interacting with a supermarket cashier, asking her about my credit card and wanting a plastic bag. It was a short conversation, but you know what? It meant the world for me. These little moments of glory are essential to keeping your language learning dreams alive for 12 whole months. Think of it like leveling up. If you can understand a new word in a movie or even purchase a train ticket on your own, that's a big deal for you, even if it's of little to no importance to anyone else. It serves as a boost to your confidence. At the end of each 12-week cycle, look back and see how far you've come. Even small improvements are worth acknowledging. Here's my favorite way to do this: reading. Reread a text you had gone through 3 months prior and compare how much you understand now. Listening. Re-listen to a podcast that you had gone through 3 months ago and see how much you understand without written support. Speaking. Have a conversation with yourself to see how fluidly the thoughts come to you, or get with your tutor and talk about a previous topic to see how you fare now. Either way, have fun and remember to treat yourself and not beat yourself. 8, adjust for the next cycle. Did you meet your quarterly goal or goals? If not, what can you do differently in the next cycle? For example, I actually stopped learning Serbian and Hungarian for almost an entire quarter because there was no feasible way for me to squeeze them into my hectic schedule. Therefore, I accepted my situation and said I would come back with a vengeance when the time was right. However, even though Turkish was my language with the highest priority for the quarter, I had to scale back my time with it from an hour to only half an hour. Adjusting your plan is part of the process, so do not be afraid to make changes. You gotta do what you gotta do. Maybe you're burning yourself out with grammar exercises and trying to understand too much too soon. Try to read for pleasure, picking up the grammar naturally and only looking it up when you really, really need it. As Bruce Lee once said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now, water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. 9. Surviving the dips. Sometimes when you've hit a dip or a point where you're just not motivated to learn, it could mean that you're not being creative enough about your approach. This happened to me with Hungarian, but then I discovered a wonderful app called Langua. A lot more on that in next week's video. When you hit that dip, it's time to change your approach and try something new. Pick up a new book, watch a new TV show, listen to a podcast you've never heard of, and invest some time in finding something different. Try to be spontaneous and adventurous. Find someone you cannot wait to surprise with your language skills. Heck, if you live close enough and it's affordable, take a trip to a location where your target language is spoken. Every year that I go to Poland during the summer, I feel more and more like a Polish person. It fills me with so much joy that if I had to start learning Polish all over again, I would gladly do it. Look forward to an event where you'll use the language or plan a trip that gives you that extra motivation. Raise the stakes for yourself by creating a new reason to get excited about learning the language. 10. Be kind to yourself. Last but not least, accept the fact that life happens. Cars break down, work gets stressful, or sometimes you just hit a wall with your learning. We all have our personal problems and inner demons, and no one is perfect. Even if I seem composed and put together on camera, I can be a complete mess behind the scenes. Trust me. So don't beat yourself up for not being a robot. It's important to remember that setbacks are part of the process. If you need to scale back and take a short break, do it. Just don't lose sight of your long-term goals. Be kind to yourself, stay flexible, and trust that with consistent effort, you will get there. I hope I've given you the proper tools to take action for this year. Remember, the quarterly approach to language learning is all about compressing your goals into shorter, more focused timeframes. By creating process-oriented goals, staying accountable, and celebrating your progress, you can achieve more in 3 months than you ever thought possible. If you'd like to know what else not to do for learning a new language, check out my free ebook and audiobook called Avoid These Critical Mistakes to Get from Failure to Fluency. It was created with you in mind, helping you reach fluency more efficiently. See you in the next video, where I will break down how one app revolutionized my language learning. And as always, happy language learning, and thanks for watching.